It's an exhibition that celebrates women artists on their own terms. It explores friendship and intimacy as sites of creativity. We also get to discover the work and approaches of artists that we don't have much of a chance to see here in the UK because their work is just not really represented widely in UK public collections. Making Modernism focuses on artists working in Germany in the early decades of the 20th century. The selection primarily focuses on 4 artists: Paula Modernism-Becker, Kürti Kollwitz, Marianne Verefkin and Gabriele Munter.
One of the reasons for bringing these artists together was because I wanted to think about a different way in which one could conceive of modernity. What would modernity look like if one saw it through the eyes of women artists? How might it change? What subjects might change? What other stories might reveal themselves if we think about it through the lens of women's experiences? And I think one of the things that reveals itself most obviously is the way in which women are constantly negotiating their roles as wives and mothers and professional artists. And it's a real sort of point of tricky tension for a lot of them to try and navigate their career as professional artists whilst also navigating the expectations of society at the time that they'd be stay-at-home mothers.
We open the exhibition with a section entitled Ourselves and Others, looking at self-portraits and portraits made by the various artists. For women artists working at this time who actually couldn't attend the mainstream academies of art, and only if they had the money to pay for expensive fees at ladies' academies could they have access to comparative artistic education. The self-portrait is a really crucial genre for women artists at this time, as a means to assert a presence in public life when exhibited, but also to explore artistic identity. And through their portraits of others, we understand that each of these artists was part of a much wider network connected to international avant-gardes in different places. For example, Verefkin paints the dancer Alexander Sakharov, and we also have Paula Modernism-Becker painting her fellow artist, the sculptor Clara Westhoff, who later married the poet Rainer Maria Rilke. We also see Munter recording her friendship with Paul Klee, who's seated in her apartment, and we get the sense of a very, very lively cosmopolitan exchange of ideas.
The second section is called The Century of the Child, and it's really an exploration of the changing role and perception of children and childhood in the first few decades of the 20th century. There's a sense in which the women artists who are interested in representing children are not interested in sentimentalized or idealized evocations of childhood at all. They're interested in the tensions and the conflicts around childhood, both for themselves as artists and would-be mothers, but also in relation to kind of, the willfulness of children, how children are, rather than idealized representations of children. The third section of the show focuses on sites of intimacy, and one of the kind of key foci of this is concerned with women's bodies, and women's bodies as both maternal and as nude, and female sexual desire.
As we move into the final room of the exhibition, we look at the theme of city, town and country and explore what the sense of different places meant to the artists when they were working. For Verefkin, the place that really defines her later work is Ascona, which is in Switzerland, in the lakes. And she moved to Ascona in 1918, and there she really finds a synergy between what she's looking to express in her art and the place around her. So you find great dizzying perspectives and these very rich sensations of colour and tone changing, and these high mountains all around her.
The final section is called Still Lives, and it's really a kind of riff and a play on the idea of the still life, which was traditionally the genre of painting that women were confined to painting. And I wanted to bring out this idea that after a lot of turbulence in their lives and their careers and their relationships with their partners, and the First World War, they find peace. A lot of them find peace, and so there's this idea that they come to terms with who they are and their role as artists, and they kind of eventually reflect and have a sort of calmer period in their lives. I hope that visitors will visit the exhibition and leave with a sense that histories of modern art that they may be familiar with are actually only the surface of what is actually available, and the kinds of artists who engaged in what it meant to be alive in the first few decades of the 20th century. What did it mean to transition from the late 19th century into the 20th century? How did the pace of modern living change? And what did that mean for women? How did women negotiate those changes in society that they were witness to? How did they navigate shifts in gender relations, shifts towards female suffrage in an era where female suffrage had not yet been granted, and the role of women was circumscribed, but yet they still managed to make work and have success, a lot of them, in their own time, and exhibit and create really new paths towards modernism in the early 20th century.